Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here with your all stuff, no fluff news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Pocket 8, which is a native Pico 8 companion for iOS and also Android experimentally. And Pocket 8 just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, version 1.6.1 is the latest and greatest update. And I would say this is a pretty big update for this emulator. I mean, they've added in controller support. They say here controller support is tested and working on both platforms for gameplay. They added manual rescan library to settings. On Android, they added import existing folder for those with existing game libraries. This indexes the game locations from your external folders to the app's library. On top of that, there's a number of fixes and tweaks. For example, for file transparency, all app files will be stored in Documents Pocket 8 for Android and On My Phone Pocket 8 for iOS. There are some issues with this build. The developer is still working through things and trying to improve the emulator. So taking a look, it is worth noting that there are some things that are not yet perfect, like controller latency. Now, if you are interested in this one and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are within the GitHub link in the bottom of the description below. I don't hide my sources. And speaking about adding in support for input methods, next up here we're talking about PlayStation 1 emulation with StarPSX, and StarPSX also got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, version 0.5.0 is the latest and greatest update here. In this update, they've added keyboard support, they've added a proper GUI, they've added a basic debugger, and added a CLI mode for those who want to skip the GUI. And speaking about stuff on GitHub, I would say here this is a pretty big PSA for those on GitHub, especially those who develop on GitHub. So listen to this from Pablo MK7, who you may know as one of the main people behind Azahar. Beware of AI-generated pull requests on GitHub. Luma 3DS got a pull request suggesting a fix ported from a fork. Wasn't suspicious at first, but looking at the user activity and responses, definitely looks like a bot. Pretty convincing though, which is a bit concerning. Pablo MK7 did some further investigation and noticed a similar bot managed to merge its AI-generated slop into 27 repositories. And this is highly concerning, not just because it's AI, but because this could contain malware. So for those developers out there, I would say just be careful on things that are being merged. And if this is happening, I would expect that there could be some controversy with a lot of the bigger repositories out there that have multiple contributors. We're going to have to wait and see on this one, but this is highly alarming. Next up, we're switching from software to hardware and talking about the upcoming Mangmi Pocket Max. Now, Mangmi has just teased a brand new video showcasing this handheld in action. Unfortunately, they still haven't unveiled the price. They released the full specs of this just the other day with the Snapdragon 865, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of onboard storage. It's going to have an 8,000 mAh battery and also a 7-inch AMOLED display. So overall, it looks like a really capable device, but the big question here is the price. I mean, is this going to be priced lower than something like a Retroid Pocket? Is it going to compete against it? Is it going to be priced better than it? Based on Mangmi's history with pricing, its limited history with pricing, a lot of people are hoping that this is going to be a budget king. We're going to have to wait and see though. And speaking about hardware and stuff without a price, next up here we're talking about something not necessarily new per se. I mean, this video was put out a couple months back. But all of a sudden it's been brought back up in the media. A lot of people are talking about it, and I couldn't tell you how many requests I've had for me to talk about this. So here we are. Someone, XNZ, has put out a brand new video here titled, I built a PS5 Xbox Switch 2 all-in-one. And the end result is really impressive. It's really not as impressive as a WiiCube64, but it's impressive in its own right. Now, this person here did a whole bunch of work to get this console up and running. It's truly amazing. I mean, they did 3D printing, they did forging, and even more. There is a bit of a caveat though. The Switch 2 is not necessarily built into this thing. A dock for the Switch 2 is, which I think makes complete sense. I mean, part of the beauty of the Switch 2 is it's got a built-in screen and it's portable, and just building it into the console would make it less portable. So it does have a built-in dock for the Switch 2, but the Xbox and PlayStation are built in. and switching between the consoles seems pretty seamless. Now, I don't know about you, but I would say this is one console to almost rule them all. I mean, for modern gaming, yes, but for older gaming, no. The WiiCube64 is where it's at. Now, for those of you who have never feasted your eyes on the WiiCube64, you're in for a treat, and there it is in all of its glory. I talked about it in a previous video a long while back, and if you are interested, you know where the links are within the GitHub link below. Anyways, it's a Nintendo Wii with a Nintendo GameCube and N64 all just merged into one unholy thing. I'm keeping it together a lot better in this video than I did in that one. This thing is super cursed. I mean, just looking at it, you could say it's cursed. However, the owner of that was selling it to raise money for a POW kitty. Out of the maybe goodness of my heart, I just flat out bought them a POW kitty. I shipped it to them. And me buying that POW kitty ended up compromising my credit card. So just go figure. Everything to do with the WiiCube64 is super cursed. Jokes aside, though, this console here is miles ahead in terms of overall form and function and just the flat-out end result product. I think this is super cool. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And speaking about super cool, next up here, we're kind of talking about the exact opposite. We're talking about Ubisoft, and holy smokes is this big news. Listen to this headline up on VGC. Ubisoft details major company reset. 6 games canned, 7 delayed, and 2 studios closed. Prince of Persia remake among canceled projects. Company reorganizes into 5 creative houses, specializing in genres. So here is one of the announcements, and this comes from the official Prince of Persia Twitter account. We've made the difficult decision to stop development on Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. While the project had real potential, we weren't able to reach the level of quality you deserve, and continuing would have required more time and investment than we could reasonably commit. And we didn't want to release something that fell short of what the Sands of Time represents. From my understanding here, Ubisoft's new operating model will be emphasizing open-world adventures and games-as-a-service experiences. No surprise, after all of these announcements, Ubisoft shares crashed by 30%. At least that's what's being reported. This could be the beginning of the end for Ubisoft. I mean, this is pretty huge. On top of that, it's being reported that over the past 6 months, the shares have declined by more than 50%. I would say that is really, really not good news for Ubisoft. And yeah, I really think their future is in doubt. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but holy smokes. And speaking about low percentages and stuff on Insider Gaming, next up here we're talking about a really interesting article titled "Return to Silent Hill Bombs Hard in Early Reviews." If you were looking forward to this movie, well, you might be disappointed by it, or you might not. Now, it is worth noting, I'm not really a movie buff, so if you are, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. But they're saying here it's got just a 6% score on Rotten Tomatoes based on 17 reviews. 17 reviews really isn't a whole lot, but I am curious to see if this 6% changes when more reviews come in. And if it does change, by how much? Because right here they're saying critics have described it as a massively disappointing adaptation of a classic horror video game. That is not very promising. But speaking about promising, next up here we're talking about Forza Horizon 6, and if you are looking forward to this game, I know I am. It will be released on May 19th. However, it is being reported that there is a premium edition of this game that will be released on May 15th, 4 days in advance. Now, if these dates sound familiar, it's because we've talked about them before in a previous leak, but now they seem to be confirmed here, and pricing, I guess, starts at $70 in the US. Taking a look as well, it does seem that there will be a physical edition. And speaking about stuff releasing fairly soon, or really soon, next up here we're talking about something really interesting from Sonic the Hedgehog. If you're a fan of Sonic, you may be a fan of this. If you're a fan of audio stuff, you may be a fan of this. If you're a fan of cool stuff, you may be a fan of this. So listen to this tweet from the official Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account. The Chaotix Detective Agency is on the case. Get ready for a brand new audio adventure. Sonic the Hedgehog presents the Chaotix Case Files, arriving on January 27th. Now, it is worth noting this is not a new video game. It's an audio adventure. Has something completely different here. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below, and if you're interested to listen to it, I guess there's going to be a lot of saxophones. And speaking about audio stuff and gaming, just a little bit of a different genre here. Next up, we're talking about the N64 and death metal. So listen to this headline up on Time Extension. We are going where no slamming death metal band has gone before. Party Cannon is releasing an album on the N64. Now, the full details of this one are up on Time Extension. There's a lot of information here. There's even samples of the music. If you are interested and wanted to learn more about this one, you know where the links are, and I would recommend checking out this article. This to me is, well, it's super interesting and pretty cool if you're a fan of death metal. And speaking about hardware, but switching from a game cartridge to a thing that plays games, depending on how you use it. Next up here, we're talking about a brand new mini PC announced by Acemagic that looks pretty interesting, although I am curious to see what it's going to be priced at. Anyways, this is the Acemagic Retro X5 AI HX370. Now, unfortunately, there's a whole lot of unknowns about this device that could make or break it in terms of how much this sells. I mean, I don't know the full spec sheet. I don't know how much RAM it's got, how much storage it's got, what the full feature set is. I don't know the release date, and I don't know the price, and the price is probably the biggest thing here. I don't think this device is going to be cheap just based on the chipset there. The HX370 I think is amazing. I'm a big fan of that chip. However, I can't see this being cheap at all. It looks cool. It's designed after the NES. But at the same time, the price is going to be the big thing. And speaking about price and mini PCs and stuff that features the HX370, next up here we're talking about Slimbook, who have just revealed their brand new updated product line for their mini PCs, the Slimbook One. So there's two different variants, one with an AMD Ryzen 7 H255, not to be confused with an Intel 255. And an AMD Ryzen AI9 HX370. Out of these two, the HX370 is the more expensive one, and we'll get to the price in just a second. The H255, the 7H255, is a really weird and interesting chip. I've got a mini PC with one of these chips in it, and it performs well. I like it. It's a very oddball chip. Anyways, here they do have Oculink, so you can connect them to an eGPU. So as for the pricing, the Ryzen 7 H255 is sitting at €649, where the AI9 HX370 is sitting at €949. So just be mindful of that price, especially considering that Acemagic PC we just took a look at. Anyways, here they can be configured with up to 128 gigs of RAM and up to 12 terabytes of storage. Next up, we're switching from hardware to software and talking about a games launcher here called Papaya. And Papaya just got a brand new release. So at the time of filming, config version 6 is the latest and greatest update. And with this version, they've added 3DS file support for ZCIA, ZCCI, Z3DSX, and ZCXI. For PC, they've added support for file type local game ID used for GameHub Lite. And for emulators, they added support for Dolphin MMJR2 VBI, Azahar Plus, Mandarin, and Panda 3DS. And speaking about software, next up here we're talking about PokeFind. If you're a fan of Pokemon within Minecraft, that mod, you might be a big fan of this announcement, provided you're a fan of Hytale. So listen to this from PokeFind. They say we're bringing Pokemon to Hytale. Now, in yesterday's video, we talked about a crazy mod where someone had modded crossplay between Hytale and Minecraft. It still needs a little bit of work, but at the same time, it's just incredible and very impressive to see where it's currently at and that it actually works, kinda. Anyways here, unfortunately, I don't have a release date just yet, but they do say big updates are coming. And speaking about big stuff coming, next up here, well, that was a really bad segue. I'll just leave it and not edit it out, whatever. Anyways, next up here, we're talking about 33 Immortals. If you're a fan of 33 Immortals, you might be a big fan of this one. If you've never played it before, it may be worth checking out. 33 Immortals will be releasing on Steam this year in 2026, and I think this is really exciting. And speaking about exciting stuff, depending on how you look at it, next up here, we're talking about Xbox and ARM Windows. So listen to this announcement here from the official Microsoft blog. Play More Xbox app is now available on ARM-based Windows 11 PCs. Now, it is worth noting here, and I think this is worth pointing out, this is not going to magically make x86 64 games run on ARM. That's not the intention here. However, at the same time, I'm glad to see Microsoft pay attention to Windows on ARM and just ARM in general. And I am curious to see if they work on more stuff. Because speaking about ARM, next up here, we're talking about a kind of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to phones. It's the Nex phone. And this is a phone that will ship with Windows 11 on ARM, but also have Android and Linux capabilities built right into it. So here's a better look at the device. Feel free to check out Windows Central for way more information on this thing. I find it very interesting. It's a 6.58-inch 120Hz touchscreen, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, supports 5G, and is powered by a Dragonwing QCM6490. And is only $549. So the cool thing about this, well, there's a number of cool things, but the coolest thing about this is what it can do. I mean, Windows on ARM or Android or Linux, whatever you wanted to do with it, and it does function as a lower powered PC. The biggest drawback is that chip. It's not going to be a gaming powerhouse, and I probably wouldn't even recommend it for gaming. But at the same time, I'd say this device is fairly innovative. I'm not going to lie here. I'm really curious to see the future in this space. I really believe phones and handheld devices will become much more normal instead of laptops and desktop PCs. Maybe that's a hot take, but I don't think so. We'll have to wait and see on that, and let me know your thoughts. And let me know your thoughts about this device in general and the functionalities. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.